Welcome to the Northside Women's Podcast, March 2025 edition. Gracie bought us these glasses that we're definitely not going to wear the whole time because they're super wild and I can't see without my real glasses.
I know.
But welcome.
We at least wanted y'all to see them on our face.
I might do like a double. I think I'm at the age where I can do a double glasses situation.
Oh, put it on the head. That's a good thought because I felt like
Where
I
are my
couldn't
glasses?
see, and I don't wear
Where are they? That feels correct. So welcome. Today we're doing part 2 of the Proverbs 31 woman, the woman who fears the Lord. Gracie and Libby did part 1 like a month ago. Mm-hmm. I had to go back and watch it because it's been a long time, and I still don't remember what happened. But
That's funny.
We're doing the second half. I did write it. I don't know. You know how that works, but we're taking this. We're just taking the second half of it, sort of today.
Mm-hmm. Part 2.
These are already clanging against my real glasses, so I'm gonna just set these to the side. I'll make they can be a cute little prop.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea. We'll have prop. Okay.
So, Proverbs 31. Y'all did a great job on that one. I've been absent a lot. I had like the
gunk.
Like I can't breathe without coughing, and I was like, that's not going to go well.
Yeah.
I could try, but it's not going to go well. So, yeah, welcome. That was a terrible intro, but here we are. That's the information you need.
Yes, we're doing Proverbs 31.
Yeah.
We will continue our staff women interviews.
Yes.
For the next episode, and it's going to be Kay Crumley.
Yeah.
Not Crumbly.
Libby said crumbly
I said
earlier.
crumbly this morning. I was like, what on earth
She's
just
crumbly.
came out of my mouth? Kay Crumley. She's been with Northside for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
We love her to death. I'm excited to interview her, or whoever interviews her.
Yeah, well, it's anyone's guess. Mm-hmm. It's a whole variable.
It will be great no matter what, because I know her, and she's pretty awesome. So
you're able to keep clicking that pin in.
I know. I noticed it. I didn't know you noticed it.
I didn't.
I'm going to put it right there.
Those are great pins, though.
They are good pins.
Okay. All right. So today, if you haven't watched the prior episode about Proverbs 31, go watch or listen to that maybe. Mm-hmm. We covered verses 10 through 21 in Proverbs 31. Today we're going to cover verses 22 through 31, which is the end of the chapter, end of the book, actually.
Yes.
So let's go ahead and do you want to read verses 20 through 31?
I am happy
do you want
to
me
read.
to do it?
No, I'll read it. Look,
Okay.
I brought my Bible.
She did.
I was prepared. I figured.
I know. Someone should be.
Wait, you said 20
Is that right? No, that's not right, is it?
22 through 31. No?
I'm not sure.
Let's start in 20. Yeah,
okay.
Let's start in 20.
Okay.
Because we didn't cover 20.
Okay.
So we did 1 through 19, I think.
All right.
Okay, Proverbs 31, 20 through 31. She opens her hand to the poor and reaches out her hands to the needy. She is not afraid of snow for her household, for all her household are clothed in scarlet. She makes bed coverings for herself. Her clothing is fine linen and purple. Her husband is known in the gates when he sits among the elders of the land. She makes linen garments and sells them. She delivers sashes to the merchant. Strength and dignity are her clothing, and she laughs at the time to come. She opens her mouth with wisdom, and the teaching of kindness is on her tongue. She looks well to the ways of her household, and does not eat the bread of idleness. Her children rise up and call her blessed, her husband also, and he praises her. Many women have done excellently, but you surpass them all. Charm is deceitful and beauty is vain, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Give her of the fruit of her hands, and let her works praise her in the gates.
Okay. I remember now. I think maybe y'all talked about being prepared for the snow.
I do feel like, yes, we did.
Just that one. When I read this, I was also like,
yeah, Gracie.
Just randomly, her husband is known at the gates. Like it all seemed, but then I remembered it's an acrostic. It's a Hebrew acrostic, so it may not go in the flowing order that would normally make sense to my brain. Like these things are connected, so they go together because it's an acrostic. As I was studying it, I was like, just randomly her husband sits at the gates while she's selling her linens. Like,
Yeah.
and then, but so it was a little interesting to sort that out, but it was a good reminder that this wasn't maybe the typical style of writing. Mm-hmm. So,
Yeah.
as always, she does a lot. And
Yes.
I think as we get into, this further, it's more about how people respond to her too. Like not just what she does, but the response of the people around her that she's caring for. So
Yeah.
let's get into it.
Okay.
Let's look at verse 20 because it's there and it's kind of in its own little spot. And as a reminder, this isn't like a real probably woman who, like, these are characteristics that we can aspire to but this isn't about like doing it all or being it all. These are just,
Yeah, this was written by King Lemuel's mom to him,
Yeah.
correct?
yeah.
Kind of telling him
Theoretically.
this is, first of all, get your act together. Second of all, here's what you should be looking for in a
Yeah,
wife.
find someone who has these abilities or these characteristics. So,
Yeah.
just as a reminder, if you don't feel like you can get it all done, it's because you can't, probably, and that's fine. None of us
Yeah.
can, but that's not the point.
Right.
So, verse 20, it says, she opens her hand to the poor and reaches out her hands to the needy. So, best I can remember, I feel like this is the first time we've kind of seen something that is, she goes and sells things, like she's participating inside and outside of her home, but she does not like keep only, for her household. She is, she cares, she doesn't forget the people outside of her household and shows compassion to others.
Yeah.
So,
I thought it was interesting too because, like, the first part of Proverbs 31, she's writing to King Lemuel, giving him kind of some instruction, and she says the same thing on that.
yeah.
Oh, yep. Don't forget the poverty. Like, she's telling him to care about the poor and needy,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah.
She doesn't say
Which
those
is-
exact words,
yeah.
but
So she's saying, like, look for someone that is naturally has that heart for people. And it made me think, like, who are the needy in our lives? Like, who are the poor and needy for us? Is it, I mean, certainly there are times that it's truly poor and needy people, like financially. And then there's also times that it might be someone who has a need that we can fill or that we can bless someone when they're struggling in other ways or, yeah, just made me think about that.
who are the poor and needy for us? That was your question. That's a good question.
Yeah. Like, is it a neighbor or we have friends right now that their household cannot stay well. You know how it is. I mean, it's rough right now. So,
Yeah.
Taking a meal or having groceries delivered or, we've talked about this many times on the podcast before, but I've seen people in other groups in this church, like, reach out and be very much the hands and feet of Jesus to someone when they're battling cancer, when they're, going through divorce or whatever it is that they're struggling. So sometimes it is literally the poor and needy financially. And, in our economy, kind of might be, but also the poor and needy might be the poor in spirit or someone who needs encouragement or a friend. So
Yeah.
it sounds like she opens her hands to the poor, she reaches out her hands to the needy. She's sort of intentional about that too.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah. Let's see. So let's go to verses 21 through 24. I'm just going to read all this again. This one kind of got me because I was like, there's randomly her husband in the middle of it all. But again, it's an acrostic. So she's not afraid of snow for her household. I know y'all talked about this some last time. For all her household are clothed in scarlet. She makes bed coverings for herself. Her clothing is fine linen and purple. Her husband is known in the gates when he sits among the elders of the land. She makes linen garments and sells them. She delivers sashes to the merchant. She does so much business.
I know.
Like a businesswoman.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's wild.
It is wild. She's like, she
Good for her.
She does a lot.
Yeah, I know.
She's
I'm
out there really
okay.
doing it.
And then she's also taking care of her home and
the needy.
Yeah.
And the
I'm like,
poor.
okay. This is where I'm like, oh, she does it all.
Yeah,
But she sort of does.
Yeah. She definitely does.
I told Libby I was reading, I brought this mug from home, and I saw a video yesterday that was like, people who walk around with just mugs are like wild. I was like, well, feral a little bit. I'm like, well, I made my tea at home. It's cold now, but I really wanted it. So
I like your mug.
thanks.
It's pretty.
Hopefully it'll make it back home with me. Maybe that's
Yeah.
why they said that. So this little passage is just some more examples of how she's caring about what goes on in her home, the lives of her family members. I read a couple of commentaries that said that her household being clothed in scarlet, so she's not afraid of the snow, that word scarlet is also like very close to a word that means double thickness. And so,
They're warm.
They're well taken care of. And what's funny is I don't think they probably got a lot of real snow in that region. So this is just another indicator, and we'll see more of this as we read on, but that she doesn't fear for what's to come. Her household is prepared. And I see that as kind of a theme in this, that she is preparing herself and her household for what's to come. She doesn't fear the future because she trusts the Lord and she prepares herself. So that's a theme that I've sort of taken away from this is it possible that there's something the answer is yes, for sure. But is it possible that there's something God's preparing you for that you don't know about? Is there, are we looking out for those places where God is preparing us for what's to come, instead of only living in, it can be easy to fear the future. It can be easy to dread the future a little bit, or sometimes we think, oh, well, once I fill in the blank, then everything will be better. It can be easy to live in that and want only that and not be present. So it seems like she does a good job of being present and not fearing the future.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because she is preparing for the future. But I think a lot of times our preparation is out of fear, but it's very specific. She doesn't fear the future. She's just preparing for it.
She just knows it's coming.
Right. Like,
it's just a fact.
Yeah. So it's, we can live. I think that really is teaching us, like, you can live in that tension of, you don't know what's coming, but you can be prepared as best you can for what could come. There's no need to be fearful of what's coming.
We can only prepare so much. I think what really matters is what God is preparing in our lives for us and how he's asking us to prepare.
Right.
Our tendency is to try to prepare for every little like materialistic challenge or whatever, and like the earthly stuff. And God's asking us to look at the fact that there's a bigger future for us, and he might be preparing us spiritually, emotionally, mentally for those things.
Right.
And again, it just seems, and we'll get more to that in the next couple of verses, but like, she laughs at the time to come. She's not living in worry all the time. She's not stuck. She's like, okay, here it comes. All right. Like, hopefully, so be it. So,
yeah.
And then, again, her husband, is kind of like thrown in here, but it seems like they both have a good reputation in town. You probably know more than I do. I've heard, learned some about like what it would mean to be like there in the gates and, sitting among the elders and being part of the community and society in that way. But it seems like they both have like a good reputation and they're active in their community. They're serving other people. Like that goes well together, it seems like.
Yeah. And even if we look at it from our vantage point, like, this idea of elders would mean these are people that we trust their opinion. They're going to be talking and discussing, like, where we're going, what's happening, what decisions we're going to make for the community.
The big stuff.
Yeah, it's the big stuff. So that means his voice was trusted
was heard. Yeah.
in like,
And he was sitting among people who hopefully were speaking wisdom into that. Like, yeah, definitely. It reminded me of a lot of people that I know that are, very actively, like active in their community, active in their school district, like, trying to be a person who changes things for the better, like making their voice heard. Sometimes that can be a little overwhelming. We can sit back a little bit, but they weren't doing that. They both
Yeah,
had a
they were out
reputation
and
for
doing things.
being
Yeah.
active. So
Yep.
okay, you want to move to
Yeah.
25 and 26? So strength and dignity are her clothing, and she laughs at the time to come. She opens her mouth with wisdom, and the teaching of kindness is on her tongue. I got so tickled at this because I was like, oh, she opens her mouth and wisdom falls out. Like, oh, good for her. We'll come to that. But I got so tickled because I was like, just the
visual of it.
I was like, well, okay, good for her.
Yeah.
She got there. But like strength and dignity being her clothing, it was hard to ignore that, the feeling of, it's not, those aren't just characteristics that she has or that she's known for or that she's developed. It's almost like a second skin. It's so natural to her.
Yeah.
Like so part of who she is at her core that it's like she's wearing it all the time.
It makes me think of our episodes about armor.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to like point out, like, clothing is something everyone can see.
Yeah.
So wisdom, opening your mouth and wisdom coming out, that's an internal thing. So clearly, like, internally, she's also caring about, like, not also caring, but like, there's stuff there, good stuff happening on the inside. But like, strength and dignity being something that she wears, it's like, oh, everyone sees this about her.
Yeah.
It's not just something she says with her mouth.
She's
like,
not hypocritical about
right,
it.
right.
The
It's
inside
like
and the outside match up.
everything that she does, it's like
Absolutely.
everyone can see, oh, this woman is full of dignity and strength. And anyways.
And there's nothing about that seems like we don't have the capability to be that fake, honestly. Like, to me, I'm like, sometimes we can be a little hypocritical about, like, I think I put Luke 6:45 in here. The good person out of the good treasure of his heart produces good, and the evil person out of his evil treasure produces evil. For out of the abundance of the heart that his mouth speaks. For her, that's just the overflow of what's already inside. She's not thinking one thing and doing another necessarily. It's matching up, which is honestly a much simpler, gentler way to live. Because if you're constantly trying to cover up, the negativity inside or the hate inside or whatever it is, like asking God to free you of that and change that in you, it matching up on the outside and the inside isn't just about optics. It's about rest. And I assume, maybe I'm taking it a little far, but I'm imagining that's part of what allows her to have the energy that she needs to do all the things that she does, because she's not fighting this constant battle of, like, I feel negative inside, but I have to seem a certain way. I have to be prim and proper. I have to be wise, seem wise.
She is those things.
Yeah. That's why when it says her strength and dignity are her clothing, it's not, you don't see that a lot in the Bible. You see, this was a strong person. This is a wise person. This is literally just another part of her, like this part of her identity, because it's so ingrained and intertwined with who she is.
Yeah. And I mentioned this last time, which I don't think we need to get too into it, but just anytime I study the Old Testament, I try to keep, the mission of Christ in mind, like, because I think that does help us interpret the Old Testament. Yeah. And just, there's that picture that Paul in the New Testament kind of readily uses, is that, it's okay, that Christ and the church, this picture of Christ and the church, a marriage with a man and a woman is a reflection of that. Yeah. And so I couldn't help but think about that with this passage, like, of, okay, if we look at this not just as a woman, but as the church.
The bride.
Yeah, the bride of Christ. Like, I think it speaks so much to what I feel like Jesus really wants the church to
Right.
look like. Like,
Right.
this is what he wants all of us to look like.
Absolutely. That's a good point.
That's like the hope for our sanctification is that we become these people.
Become.
Yeah.
Not act like.
Right. That
Not
it's
behave
that
like in
it's just
certain
who we are.
scenarios.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
And this is why I say this with love, but part of the reason the world considers Christianity as a whole to be so hypocritical
It's because we are.
because we're
Just kidding.
It's hard to
Not
ignore.
as a whole, but that does
they
happen.
see a lot of that in a lot of us, and so that is we can be defensive or throw our hands up and cry about it, or we can look internally and say like, yeah, I do want the overflow of my heart to match up with what I want my actions to be. And again, this is not about perfection. This is not about like behaving a certain way for the sake of behaving a certain way.
Right, that's so true.
This is heart change. This
That's
is
so true.
I don't know what she was before now. Again, this is not, I don't think this is a real person, but this is something we aspire to because it's possible this is something that builds over time, that God teaches us over time. This is the process of sanctification, really. So,
Yeah.
and then again, she laughs at the time to come, keeps making, I enjoy that. She's not like paralyzed in fear or worry. She's not stuck in negativity. She's not drowning in like dread of what's to come. She's just very present and has a knowledge that the future is potentially, we're not promised tomorrow, but that the future's coming and that God has a hand, his hand there too. And she's prepared in the ways. I was talking with someone yesterday, actually, about a client about this balance between letting God do what only God can do and him asking us to join him and be active in his work and like finding our spot in that because, for some people the tendency is to be a little over-controlling, and try to play God with, maybe with good intention. And then, but also he calls us to act and to engage with him. So it seems like she's found a good balance of, not worrying about the future, but also preparing for it. It's a good note for us.
Yeah, I agree.
We can prepare without fear.
I agree. Even knowing that what's to come might not be what we want
Often.
or what we desire.
Or what we expect.
Yeah.
Often.
Yes.
I would say many, many times.
Yes.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And we can laugh about it.
I know. When I was imagining it, I was like, she's so cool about it. She's like, oh, no big deal. I did imagine her with like a very
That's how I
proper
imagine it. Like I have this woman in my
Not
mind.
like I'm like
just
a howler monkey when I laugh, like
Yeah.
screeching.
Oh, that's
She's like,
so funny.
Yeah. So this so this next bit is maybe my favorite part. So like again,
let's do
she opens her mouth with wisdom. Sorry, there's a camera over here. She opens her mouth with wisdom, and the teaching of kindness is on her tongue.
Yeah, we didn't talk about that, but that's a good point.
Here's
too.
my fill in the blank question for you.
Ooh.
Jeff loved this one. He was like, I think that was great. When I open my mouth, blank falls out. It's not really a question.
I like
It's a
that
statement.
question.
What would you say about yourself?
Okay.
What would your close friends, your children, your coworkers, or your spouse say about you? Here's some potential. Sarcasm, integrity, negativity, wisdom. I mean, this is not like every single moment of every single day, but what is the theme of what falls out of your mouth when you open it? Food?
Let's reiterate the question.
Yeah.
Just to make sure they have the question in their mind.
Okay.
So when I open my mouth, we're all thinking about this question right now. When I open my mouth, blank falls out.
Yeah, the most
For her, it's
typical
wisdom.
thing, right?
But what is it for us?
The most typical thing that comes out of my mouth is
Yeah, wisdom is very broad, but like
it is.
that's like their identifier of what comes
Right.
out of her mouth. So
Right.
how would you identify what normally comes out of your mouth? Ooh, good question.
And again, am I being like extra hard or extra kind to myself? What do I think the people around me would say? And are they being extra hard on me or extra kind to me. You know, it's just one of those.
Yeah, and we might have even like, here's the ideal answer.
Yeah, or like,
And then
is
there's-
there something that you want it to be more like? Let's say that I think that most of what I say is our words of integrity, but I want it to be more words of wisdom. Those are still things that the Holy Spirit can work on in me, and that I can ask for that. This is not only about like, you know, good or bad. I'm not saying that. Just are there, you know, is there a direction? Sometimes we have expressed a lot more negativity because that's the overflow of our heart, and we don't even realize that that's where we've gotten.
Right.
So thinking about this is not to put shame on anyone. It's just to say, like, you know, what would people say are the theme of your words and the way you speak, and is that what you want it to be? Is that what
Right.
you think God has for you? And if not, then
What was your answer to this? Did you come up with one?
sarcasm. That was my answer.
That was your answer?
Not always. I think abundance. Like I talk a lot, so when I open my mouth, a lot falls out, and probably, you know, some of that's great and some of it's
Not.
unnecessary.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Me too.
well, that's all right.
Yeah.
Again, not all bad, not all good. Just a place to maybe take stock.
Yeah. It's a good question. I like it.
And at the end of my life, when, you know, someone is thinking about, like when Amy spoke, what would be useful for the kingdom if the theme is when I open my mouth, this falls out. For her, it's wisdom, it's strength. Like, those are good ones.
Yeah, those are good ones.
So,
Yeah, that's good.
yeah. And those aren't things we get. So, and we're going to talk a little bit about the balance between like rest and
Idleness.
everything else, all the things. So let's just move right into verse 27, because I think this is a good transition. She looks well to the ways of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. What do we think that the bread of idleness looks like? And then let's think about like what that might look like in our time. What do you think the bread of idleness means?
Okay, well, if I were to just off the top of my head give you an answer for this, my first thought is a car. So
Because it idles.
it idles.
Yeah.
So it would be like, I would think of a car kind of just maybe sitting in park or neutral, and it's just kind of, idling.
Mine's so much worse when it's idling than when it's going.
Yeah. So is mine. I have a diesel, so
Goodness.
it's like, it literally makes that noise.
Whoa.
Yeah, so I would think, and the thing about, like, this is too much, but like the car is on.
Yeah.
It could be moving,
Yeah.
but it's not. It's just sitting there.
It's not actually fulfilling its
Right.
purpose, right? When it's
Correct.
idling, it's
It's capable,
yes.
but it's just sitting there.
And it's even on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, right, exactly. But it's just
You
sitting
can't even
there,
you
ready.
can't even idle without gas in the tank, right?
Yeah.
Like it's prepared.
It's
It's just
ready.
not doing
Yeah.
anything.
It's just
that's
not doing anything.
really designed for.
Yeah,
It's not
that's
all
what
bad. We have to stop at a stop sign. We have to stop at a stop. Like I get
Correct.
it.
Correct.
We need some of those pauses, right? I think Louis Giglio calls it like rest. In the book of Joshua, we've been studying that, and like after all these like days and days and days and days and months of like fighting battles and fighting war, they rested. And he talks about it as a pause. Like it's not meant to be complete idleness. It's not meant to be like laziness. It's just meant to be a rest. Not a problem.
No, rest is good. This is.
It is.
I
This
think
is not
idleness
what
is
we're talking-
Different. Yeah,
I agree.
Like in my opinion, rest is like you intentionally turn the car off to refill and
Yeah.
prep everything, get it all
Yeah.
back to running how it's supposed to.
Yeah.
But when you're idle, you're on, you're ready, you're just sitting there.
It's not doing anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. I had kind of written some modern examples of like the bread of idleness that we might struggle with. So these are things that we do that sort of are just time wasters, but we like y'all talked about like when you feel emotional going to Target and spending money.
Oh yeah. I don't
last
do that
time.
anymore. That actually is like a thing that
It's good.
I've had to work
very
on that.
relatable. I think.
It's totally relatable.
Online shopping.
That's
excessive.
different story.
Like,
I'm just kidding.
is it a different story?
No, it's not. It's the same. I meant a different story. I don't go to Target anymore. I can't say I don't
Target
online shop.
Yeah, fair enough. Binge watching TV shows and movies, or doom scrolling, or excessive materialism and time spent on pursuits that don't have any basis in eternity. Like, these things by themselves aren't bad. I wrote the thing that it's the dose that makes the poison. It's not about watching a TV show necessarily. That is totally benign, depending on the TV show.
Yeah.
It's not about we have to shop for things. Like, we have to buy things for our households to run. Like,
Correct.
these things are not bad by themselves. They're totally neutral and even good. But it's the dose that makes the poison. If we're doing these things to excess, that I would say some of those things are the modern day bread of idleness.
Yep.
And so I wrote that rest and balance are not problematic. They're necessary.
Yeah.
This is talking about consuming idleness. And one of the commentaries I read said it's speaking about bread, because that was one of the most common things for them to consume in their diet.
Totally.
They would have consumed it daily, multiple times a day. So it's not about never resting or never even being idle. It's about consuming that as often as, like, every single day, multiple times a day, constantly.
Correct.
That's a problem.
Yeah. It does also make me think of, like, there's a contrast to this and Jesus talks about this, the bread of life.
Yeah.
So there's these breads that we can, and I think they're speaking of bread because it's like what you're consuming, what you're like taking in. Because, genuinely, that's going to produce what comes out.
Right.
If we're thinking about it, like really thinking about it. So I think there is that contrast of like, okay, well, if there's two options here, I want to be consuming the bread of life, not the bread of idleness. Like, anyways. Yeah.
And I agree with I didn't write this down, but now that you're saying it, the idea of the input, there's a lot of things we can't control the output on, but we can control what we do. So, like, people talk about this as it relates to, like, exercising or, like, trying to, to get in shape. You can't control the outcome. You can only control what you put into it. And, you just trust that your body knows what to do with that. And you take your time and, hopefully, like, setting goals for, like, a month from now, I want this, is going to lead to disappointment. Same thing here. We can't necessarily, it's not our job to control all of the output. The Holy Spirit is doing that in us, but we can control the things that we consume and that we put in over and over and over.
It's true.
So I definitely like that analogy of the input. And this is part of that. She doesn't eat the bread of idleness.
Yeah.
She doesn't do it.
Yeah. I do think there is something to, like, I love what you're saying, that we can't control what comes out, but we do know out of the abundance, what comes out is what we have in abundance on the inside.
Yep.
So I do think there is something to that. Like,
I totally agree.
It might not really look like what we want it to look like, especially when we're talking about working out.
We don't get to control if I pour my tea to overflowing, this cup is not going to overflow with water or Dr. Pepper. It's going to overflow with tea.
Correct.
So, I don't necessarily get to control how and where, but I know it's going to overflow with what I put in it.
That's right.
Period.
Yeah, that's it. Yep,
so
that's it.
I agree. Okay. Verses 28 and 29.
Yes.
These are, we hear these at Mother's Day. They're precious verses. They are. Her children rise up and call her blessed, her husband also, and he praises her with these words. Many women have done excellently, but you surpass them all. What do you think?
What do I think?
Mom and wife, Libby?
Oh, man. I don't know if my children would say this about me or my husband.
That's not what I was asking, but I'm certain they would. I'm certain they have, and they should.
Okay, well, I think I would love to, like, talk about this word blessed, but I'm not going to. I think, like, it just goes to say, it's like the same thing I feel like we're beating a dead horse, but like,
Listen, this is what the Bible wrote. We're
I know,
just in it.
I know, but like, okay, in the outside world when
Mm-hmm.
she's going and doing all her things in the community, they see this is who this woman is.
Yeah.
And then this is reiterating, because in your household, that's like
The realist
they
version of
see
you, right?
the realist version of you.
So true.
And so, like, if your children are saying these things and your husband are saying these things, like,
I totally agree.
that's like the pinnacle, because I'm not pinnacle, but like, I do actually think about that even for my own personal life. Like, if honestly, like, the pieces of me that I am constantly like, oh, that part needs to be refined, doesn't it, Jesus? It's almost always coming out at my home, not when I'm out in public.
Right.
You know what I'm
In
saying?
in your zone of safety.
Yeah.
That's
I'm
how
like,
kids
"Ooh,
are too,
where'd that
right?
come from?"
That's how we
Yeah.
all are.
Yes.
Because we know those are the people that love us unconditionally and,
Yep.
with love will let us get away with the most.
Yeah. Yes. And yeah, you're just like totally relaxed there. You're like, your guard is down. These are the people that you're just doing day in, day out life with. And so what comes out there, if that's what they're saying, this is
I
what
would
comes
say
out in our home
she's made
about
it.
her. Yeah.
Right.
Like,
I
that's
mean, genuinely.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I pray for.
Aspire
Like,
to. Sure. I'm kind of with you in that same vein. I talk sometimes with clients about like how we take in information about what people think about us. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't, we should be kind to people wherever we go. But if someone who doesn't know me
Yeah.
has a bad opinion of me, I really don't need to be letting that affect me at
Yeah.
the same level.
You can't internalize
Like
that.
if my husband or my best friend or my mom comes to me and says, there's a problem here and we think you need to consider it, I should be taking that in. Like, I might feel defensive, but I should really be considering that, because those are the people that know me best.
Right.
And so the people that know her best say, like, that means something. It's not just that someone's saying it, just random people that she can be nice to on the street.
That's right.
These are the people that genuinely know her, like you
That's
said.
right.
So that's something that I like people to keep in mind. Like, I kind of think about it like a target. Like, there's going to be people in your real inner circle, and what those people think about you on earth that's as close to like the Holy Spirit as we get, like physically in a human. We get people who know what, and genuinely no one can possibly know us even close to as well as God does and the Holy Spirit does. So take that for what it's worth too. But as far as humans go, there's people that are good friends, acquaintances, and then there are people who just know you on the fringes. And I would say that this goes both ways. So if people on the fringes think you're great, but the people in here think you're a
agree.
nightmare, we have some work to do.
Yeah, I was going to speak to that. Like, I think sometimes people, because we, for so many of us that are at, the working age, we have to be out, we have to be working, we have to be, in with people. On. There you go. That's a good word for it. And I think a lot of times we pour out so much here. Like, if this read where she does all these great things in the community and then her household is getting her leftovers.
It's a mess. Yeah.
Yeah, like, okay, we got an issue here.
Yeah.
And like, I think we need to flip that where this is where the abundance for me really comes from, is in my household, and then everything else is just getting the overflow of
extra.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
That's like, I try to live like that, and it can be very difficult because things out here are like pulling for you. You have to show up on time. Yeah.
Our culture nowadays says, we want the best of you all the time.
That's
and
right.
Then whatever's left over, you do with what you will on your own time.
That's right. Which is why I think so often the bread of idleness is so tempting.
Yeah.
Because you're like, I am exhausted from giving everything here. I don't have anything to give here.
And even if you do, you're giving all of it anyway.
Right.
Like, you're just running on empty all the time, kind of. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is why when we talk about this, the goal is not to look at her and go, well, that's something that I can totally totally achieve and totally doable, and I'm just failing at it all the time. This isn't meant to be shame. This is meant to be like, these are characteristics that the Holy Spirit builds in us and that we can aspire to for the sake of the gospel, not just for the sake of being a good person or being perceived as a good person.
Right.
Because that's useless.
Yep. And I think you spoke to this, but just to reiterate, like this idea of idleness, like I think that's a problem that we see so much in our world right now.
Yeah.
Like she clearly didn't eat the bread of idleness, which is just like kind of slowing down for a minute and just, but you're still running. Like she clearly had a good practice of I do these things and then I rest.
She must.
Yes.
She must.
Had to. But I don't think we do that. I think we eat the bread of idleness. So we're just like kind of slowing down, but not stopping.
Not genuinely
not
like
resting.
powering down and getting what we need.
That's right. To be refilled to
I
then
agree.
continue doing
I agree.
the things that we should be doing.
And again, this is extreme. When we're talking about these concepts, I think this is extremely counter to what our culture is asking, because our culture is more, better, faster,
gosh, yes.
hustle, like all the things. And so I think that's how we've gotten into, I mean, we don't even, do you remember a time in your life when you were much younger, I do, that we wouldn't have had a phone on? I don't know that I can tell you the last time my phone's been off. Genuinely, because I charge it and it just is my alarm. It stays on beside me.
On. Yeah.
I mean, even if I put it in do not thing or whatever, if that even works, I'm not convinced. I mean, that's insane.
Yeah, that's true, actually.
It used to be like when I was young and we had it, even in like college, probably when in an emergency, I had to call someone's house phone.
Right.
To get a hold of them in the middle of the night when something horrible happened. I remember doing it. Like waking up Jeff's parents at like 3 a.m.
On their house phone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that was the only option. It wasn't this we're never off.
Right.
Our phones
We're
are
idling.
a very good example of us, if we're not careful, I should say.
I think we've gotten extremely well at idling.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, because even like, in my opinion, the biblical definition of rest is not just having a glass of wine and watching TV. I don't know how many I just called out. Or a cup of tea and watching TV.
Call it out.
Like, that's not rest. That is
not wine, but tea.
Yeah, I know, same. But you know what I'm saying.
You're right.
Like,
I
think it's close enough to rest that we're like, okay, I've rested. But if you really see the fruit of that, is that actually rest? Like, I have to ask myself the same question. And I've honestly gone on this like quest. I'm calling it a quest because it's been like really enjoyable actually, but just noticing like, Libby, why do you do that? And that's not actually what is biblical here.
Yeah.
Like, that's not rest in the sense of like shutting things down, turning it off, allowing your body to breathe, stopping. I'm not in control of this world. God is. Like, I don't have to actually be doing anything. Shouldn't be. I should be resting, letting him keep it going without me.
And we're back
don't do
to
a good job of
so many things we've been sold and have bought the counterfeit version
It's true. Yeah, it's true.
Which is rough.
Yeah, it's like you were saying earlier, like we do these things for the sake of the gospel. And I'm like, how many things do we do for the sake of a false gospel? Like, it's just like, it's either the gospel or it's not real.
Not.
Yeah.
Yeah, the opinions of others, what the expectation is, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. Ooh. Okay, well.
Yeah, we got on a tangent there, but.
Again, let's go back for a second. If someone who knows you very well, and I say this with experience, honestly, if someone who knows you very well comes to you and says, I'm concerned about this, or this part in your life or something is what's going on here, please ask the Holy Spirit to help you with discernment. Ask the Holy Spirit for wisdom. I know the temptation is to be very defensive, but God puts those people in our lives for a reason. And you might, like, we've had many situations in our Bible study group where we've either been that person that's someone's coming to, or we've had to be the person going to like talk about, and there is like the intense amount of stress to go talk to someone about their own sin in today's modern world is insane. Someone who does that loves you deeply. I hope they do it lovingly.
Yeah.
Please, if
It's
you
true.
ever have to do that,
Do it lovingly.
Talk yourself under the table,
Yeah.
please. But someone who does that and does it with love adores you. So, and vice versa. Like, think about this and all. I know people have different situations in their lives, so take from this what you will and leave what you don't need. But, the people that are very close to you and who live life with you day in and day out, believe them when they tell you who you are. And that is all the good things and,
Yeah.
here and there, a negative thing too.
It's true. Yeah.
Believe them, please, because everything else is like this. The whole rest of the world really doesn't know you.
That's right. I've really grown fond of being married. So for all you girls who aren't married,
She's grown
don't
fond of it.
feel any type of way about this. I know. Well, at
That's
first
nice.
it's kind of jarring because you're like, ooh,
It is.
you see every side of me. But
Yeah.
and then when they say something that you're like, I don't do that. Like, no, that's not real. But I have really grown to love, actually, which is it's such a picture of my relationship with Christ, which is why I think I'm like, oh wow, this is God, good on you for this system you set up. But I've just really grown to love, like, when he notices something or points out something, sometimes it's like really, I'm like, I wouldn't have seen that without you.
Yeah.
It's just such a beautiful way to grow and be sanctified in truth, because like there's just things that I'm like, oh, I didn't know that, but
We
thank
see
you for
that
pointing
in
it
so
out.
many areas. Like, that's so well thought out in so many areas of life. Like, people who, like, even in the mental health field will say, like, can we talk to a family member who they might see something that's going on, or a symptom or a change, good or bad, before that person does, because they're kind of a reflection of us if we're vulnerable enough.
That's true. Yeah.
To allow that. So
Right.
I love that you said that, because
Yeah, and a lot of time it doesn't just come out. It's like we'll be talking through things, and then as we're talking, we're like pointing things out about each other, like, oh, well, you do that because this. And I'm like, I didn't know that. Like, thank you for saying that. I didn't realize. Yeah. But you have a different perspective.
yeah.
Like,
and it's by design, right? Like,
totally by design.
We're
That's
designed to be
my
more
point.
vulnerable in that relationship than any other, essentially, with humans, at least. So.
With humans. Right. Like, I sometimes really do feel like, okay, it's you and God doing this to me. I need a break.
Doing this to me.
I need a break.
Doing this to
kidding.
me.
Just kidding. Yeah. It's so
she's
personal.
She's not kidding, though.
Yeah, it's so
she's kidding, and
personal.
she's not.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so the last two verses, again, we hear this one a lot. Charm is deceitful and beauty is vain, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Give her the fruits of her hands and let her works praise her in the gates. Charm is deceitful. Man, that one gets me. Because it's true.
Oh, it's so true.
It's,
I
man, charm can get you
know.
so far. I think of, like,
And don't you hear when people are like, oh, he's so charming? Every time I hear that, I'm like,
it
ugh.
makes me cringe.
Yeah, I'm like, stay away.
Don't want that.
Don't want that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely, I shouldn't, but my mind goes to people that I just think, you are maybe a narcissist. I just do. Not everyone, obviously, but a handful.
All the charming people. No,
Not
just
all
kidding.
the charming people,
No.
but I'm like, that's part of the bit, right? That's the part of the bit of charm is, and I even think of like Charm School, like we're talking about her, like I just did one of the laughs that I was like, bah! Just totally not charming.
Amy, yeah.
Very graceful, obviously, as usual. But I think about that and I'm like, Charm School is meant to portray something that isn't already internally in there. It's meant to be a facade
Right.
for a reason. There's nothing wrong with that, I guess, but it's sort of like you and the car and idling. Like, it's not real. It's not designed to be. That's not. I'm just rambling, but
It's okay.
the Bible is basically saying that's not a worthwhile thing to be
Right.
pursuing.
Right. Yeah, wisdom, it sounds like, is what we should be pursuing.
Definitely.
Not being charming.
Yeah.
Because charming is not real.
It's
Something you have to,
fleeting.
like, work toward. Like, I want people to see this about me,
perceive me.
and think that I'm this
Right.
person. But it's not.
But
it's
not
not
really
out
me.
of the abundance of my heart. It's
Yeah.
because I'm like, I can do this.
It's
I can
not-
be in public
exactly.
and I can look
It's
like
acting,
this, and I
isn't
can
it?
float around a room. Yeah,
It's acting.
Yeah,
and
it's totally
it's
acting.
not an overflow of the heart. It's not what happens when you get home.
That's right.
When you get home, you go on
Yeah.
the couch.
That's right.
Like, okay, that's fine, but it's not reality.
Right.
So this
But beauty is reality. That's
It
an
can be,
interesting.
yeah.
That's an interesting thing. Like,
but it's vain.
right.
And in some versions, I think fleeting. We
Yep.
hear that like
I like
it's not
fleeting.
lasting.
Yep.
It doesn't. It's not what matters.
Right.
And I think
It's not that it's
too,
bad to be beautiful.
Oh, not at
For
all.
whatever reason. Like, I
No,
want my husband to
certainly.
think that I'm beautiful for sure. But that doesn't mean anything. Like, my fear of the Lord is what matters.
Right.
Not anything else, especially not charm or beauty. Like, I just like that I like that is pointed out.
that's not what
like,
to be praised
yeah,
in her.
and what don't strive for it? Like, that's something, I don't know if we've talked about that on this, but our culture very much is like, strive
Don't
for
age.
beauty. Yeah, don't age.
Don't let people see you age.
You can't age. Why do you even have a wrinkle? I can't believe that. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's true though.
It is
really is. And I
true.
see it a
I
lot
mean, you see
in
it-
our generation.
Well, I was gonna say even like the whole like young, like preteens getting super into really expensive skincare. Like
That's
is
crazy.
That is a symptom of something, and the something is you don't have value unless you have beauty. And this is talking, I think, about external beauty. I think
agree. Yeah,
there's
yeah.
a lot of beauty to be found in the characteristics that people have in their personality and their spiritual, characteristics. And so this is talking about beauty for the sake of like vanity.
Like outside. Vanity. Yeah,
Because I
that's
think a lot about how many beautiful women I think exist at Northside. And I've heard it said, like, when you think about being with a friend, like a close friend who you love being around, or a family member who you love being around, what are how would you describe them? Like Haley, how would you describe Haley to someone who didn't know her?
Oh, yeah.
Like being around
She's
her.
beautiful. Yeah.
Of course she is, but that's not the first
She-
thing you
no,
would say
no,
about her.
No, and really, even that descriptive of her is who she is. Like,
Yeah.
I love so many things about her that has nothing to do
Like
with
if
her
you were
looks.
to describe being with her to me, that wouldn't even probably
It would not
I
come
would
up.
get that, but it wouldn't matter.
No, it
You
wouldn't
would
come.
say
I wouldn't even
she's
talk about her looks.
Loyal and funny and easy to talk to, and you love being around her, and
She
you
loves
get to have
Jesus.
the
She pushes
deep
me towards him.
conversations.
Yeah.
You grow when you're with her. Like
Totally.
all of those things are what you think of, and you picture her face in your mind. You know her, but that doesn't matter. And when something changes about how she looks, that doesn't matter either. She
No.
will age, hopefully.
That's right.
That's
right.
what we want. Aging is a blessing. And anyway,
Yeah.
might have gotten a little
That's okay.
hot under the collar there.
No,
but
it's true though. It's true, and I think we need to be reminded because the culture is reminding us not to age and to
Yeah.
fight for beauty
it's
at
not
all
okay.
costs.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
So yeah,
I totally agree.
Let's talk about it because I think we need to talk about it. Like, and
This says these are things that don't matter. They don't last. But a woman who fears the Lord lasts.
is to be praised.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
it says, give her the fruits of her hands. Let her works praise her in the gates. Essentially, she's doing the input part. Let her have the fruits of her labor, the fruit of passion, the fruit of not idleness, the fruit of work and labor and toil and effort and love for her family, love for the Lord. Let her have the fruits of those things. Let her enjoy the abundance of that. It's probably not going to look like material wealth. It's probably not going to look like, perfect skin or whatever it is. It's going to look like the peace and like true underlying joy that come from living a life that fears the Lord. Let her enjoy that part because she's done the things.
Yeah. And quit falling for the lie that beauty means something to anybody, God, anybody. I mean, really, like, I don't know.
It's tough.
Yeah, it's
tough. These are hard
I'm not saying
topics.
we don't take care of ourselves. I'm just saying don't fight for this at all costs, because fight for your relationship with the Lord.
I would be very careful here, but that's one thing that I've had to heal from over the years
same.
Is like, again, I'm not going to get too far into this because I want to be careful, but for me, one of those things that I've had to kind of nail down away from me is thinness. I don't need to be thin to be loved by God. I don't need to be thin to be healthy, quite honestly. Disagree if you want. I don't care. That's what the research says. That will pass away and doesn't matter. And so to devote the amount of energy and resource and mental energy and stress to that I was for decades of my life, I'm done. I'm done.
Amen.
I am over it. Some people will hate that, and that's fine. I don't care. I don't care.
I like that you pointed out healthy, because I think so many women strive for that.
Yeah.
And even can attain it, but is it healthy? Like,
Sure.
That's what's even more astounding to
Absolutely.
me, is like
what do you give up? I read, there's a quote one time that I put in my little like planner years ago, and it was like, the cost of anything is the amount of hours of life you trade for it. And I'm pretty sure I got that wrong, but it was a Thoreau quote.
it's
And
good though.
I still think about that because I'm like, it's not just, there's nothing wrong with it, with striving to do something if you think it is going to make your life better or make you feel better or whatever. But how much is that talk about consuming the bread of something.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that anymore. Talk about
and if
something
you're
that I
doing
can't
it
control.
for like vain reason. It's one thing if you're like, okay, I feel like God's called me to do X, Y, or Z.
Sure. Like a thing.
Yes.
A thing that you can't use.
Like, even I feel like he's
Right.
been very intentional to call me to care for my body and
Right.
to take care of it.
Which is input.
Yes.
He's called you to choices about input.
Yes.
You can't control the output.
That's right.
People think that if I control the input, then I will control the output. And I'm just choosing not to do that. But I work out most days of the week. I nourish my body. I rest. I'm a human. That's how my body works.
It is so interesting to me. This is such, like, this conversation even is so, I have thought a lot about this. Like, our culture has said, this is what beauty is. This is what everyone needs to look like. They tell us. Needs to be striving. I'm like, how many different bodies are out there that should absolutely not be striving for this?
I
like,
agree.
we all are just shaped differently.
We have a different
but we can do all the
size, we're
things to
different
like take
heights.
care of ourselves.
Sure.
But
and we should.
And we should, but
Totally.
not striving for something that is actually unhealthy and
Maybe impossible.
totally impossible.
People genuinely get into, like, this is where disordered thinking comes in, whether it's a true eating disorder or disordered
That's right.
thinking and eating. And not just that, exercise, beauty, like skin. I can be guilty of the skincare part. I think part of me is like, well, I'll never be thin, but I can have good skin. It's not a great motto. But how many of those things are we consuming at such a level that we don't have anything left for our family? We don't have anything left for our work. We don't have anything left for the Lord.
That's right.
No.
Yeah.
No, that's an idol now.
Yep.
That's an idol now, and I'm not doing that anymore.
That's right.
It's been a while since I've been doing that, but that's maybe the first time I've said that on here. So take what you need and leave the rest. That's just a personal experience, but I think that is something that has freed up a part of me to things that matter. To think, I'm not fine. No, genuinely, things that actually matter.
No, I totally agree.
I don't want to say it doesn't matter because it matters to some people, but I still don't think it matters. That's still my opinion. And it's been very freeing to, I think genuinely the Lord delivered me from that. I don't think I did anything to pursue that. He put people in my life that spoke that information and like into me and that love into me. And I have a husband who does not, he loves me no matter what. He loves me.
Yeah.
The human me, not what my body does or doesn't look like or can or can't do.
Yeah. But he, never mind.
Yeah,
I'm not going to say this.
I think he's probably into it enough. Yeah, I know what you're saying. But I'm just, you know what? His body's changed too.
Yeah,
so
totally.
that's how it is.
Totally.
I mean, it's a privilege
and you love
live and age.
Yeah.
And, we're taking care of each other as our fun 40s health issues are starting to pop up. That's just how it is.
Yeah.
That's just how it is. It's not, I don't know. I just, this woman might have been, this woman might have been fat. We don't know. It doesn't say that, but she might have been because there are fat women. And so, she might have been doing all these things and she might have been fat or ugly or had bad skin or
totally,
like ugly hair, whatever that means. Like she might have been a real ogre as far as looks go. But all these things people say about her, she's clothed in dignity and strength. She opens her mouth and wisdom falls out, people.
Yeah. And
this is what mattered.
I don't know about you, but so from the other side of it, I have had to really work, and I'm still working through this, letting go, trying to maintain, looking a certain way or caring about how I look even. Yeah. The older I get, the more this is what I want. You know what? If someone calls me beautiful, I'm like, that's all you think of me? Is that genuinely what comes to mind? Because I don't want that.
That's not what you want the first thing to be. And people think that's a compliment, right? They mean well.
They mean well.
This is we're talking about a very systemic societal issue. So I'm not saying this is something we solve right this second.
Totally.
I'm just saying.
I mean, it takes work.
A lot of what we have talked about as it relates to her has been extremely countercultural. This is just another piece of that we're tacking on at the very end. But I would challenge you to think about, is there something in your life that doesn't have anything to do with eternity that you are giving
so much time
all
and
of your energy to, so much of it that you are exhausted and can't rest and you're only
or how
idling.
much money are you spending on it? There's something to think about.
Well, don't come for it. Don't come for us, Libby.
I mean, that's something I have had to wrestle with.
Sure.
I mean, is it actually worth $150 for a tiny bottle of skincare? No. That is not the best use of my money.
Not for our kind.
No.
Maybe for someone out there. It depends on, I guess, spend your money how you want to. But no.
But I'm just saying for me, this is a me thing. This is a me thing.
Yeah. When we're talking about these price points, this is all different for all of us. You may be a millionaire. That's great. Just know how you spend I will tell people what I think my priorities in life are in kind of an order. But I can tell you, if you put up a video camera in my home, the way I spend my time, energy, and money are what actually matter. It's the dog. Right. It's my dog.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
Yeah. It's true.
Time, energy, and money. All of it. But in many times, it's been
other things.
Netflix or YouTube or skincare or dieting or reading a book series. There's nothing wrong with any of those things by themselves. Again, the dose makes the poison. Let's keep that in mind. But how much of those things are keeping me from the things that actually matter?
That's right.
That is the dose that makes the poison.
And that's really what we're getting at. I
got into it, and then I couldn't get out of it.
I know.
Sorry, Jeff.
Well, I think women need to hear it, so that's a positive.
Hopefully.
That's a positive.
Or we'll get canceled.
No,
either way.
That's fine. Cancel us.
Either way.
This is still the journey I'm on because I have seen the fruit of God releasing me of that burden of these things matter. So these things matter so much. And I'm like, I mean, is it like almost convicting to realize how on earth did I ever think this mattered this much? These things mattered this much. Like for you, you shared like being thin or what. Like, have you ever felt almost
I was
convicted
obsessed.
over like,
Yeah.
why did I ever think that mattered?
And
Like,
but then I, when I talk with the Lord about it, I don't do that in shame, because that is the overwhelming, screaming message to women in our society. So,
It is true.
I have to be careful about that
is
part,
true.
because I'm like, this is just what's expected.
it is true.
And it's one thing if I choose to do something different, the Lord teaches me something different, but I'm not sure what the expectation is when literally billions and billions and billions of dollars are being spent
Trying to get you to think that
preach
way.
that message. I mean,
true.
it is.
It's
it
true.
is, it's an enormous, enormous industry. So
Yeah,
all of them.
it's infiltrated the church. We can probably stop talking about it because we'll definitely get canceled.
Listen, if you're gonna listen, you're gonna listen.
So it's
yeah,
like, and that's like the thing. I think where the conviction comes for me is I'm like, oh, what am I telling my kids? Like, not shame,
Yeah,
conviction. And to me, conviction is very full of grace.
absolutely.
So when
Absolutely.
I speak about conviction, that's in my mind, it is not shameful.
Yeah.
Like, it's me and the Lord. I can
well,
cry and feel
it's
very
me
at
that
peace
gets
about
in the
this.
shame, because you said like conviction started to, that internally felt like, how could I have possibly ever? And I'm like, oh, there's a lot of, I mean,
There's reasons
of
why.
course,
Yeah, of course we think that way.
easily,
Yeah.
easily how. But yeah, I do think this matters for our culture. I think it matters for our girls' culture
I
coming up.
agree. Yeah. We have to think about them. Like, what are we passing down to them?
We do.
And that's why I said I feel like it has really infected even the church.
Yeah,
We've
agree.
all, you're like billions of dollars have been spent on this
yeah.
for us to believe this, for us to strive after
The
it.
buy-in is there.
The buy-in is there.
And that, again, I'm not saying don't do your skincare. I do my skincare still. I get it.
I take care of myself.
Yeah, but just beyond that, I think what I have learned a lot from this is when I think of a woman of beauty, how she looks is the last thing on my list.
That's so true. It's so true.
And I'm not even saying it's because those women aren't beautiful. They are categorically physically beautiful. That's not the point, though. Their true beauty is based on what falls out of their mouth when their mouth opens.
It's true. It's
Ooh,
true.
that's something I need
Mandy
to work on.
Cross is like someone who comes to mind.
Yeah.
And I've told her this, so this isn't anything she hasn't heard. But she shared her testimony at Rooted. Not really, but she taught, and this was part of it. She was saying like I used to like think about myself, like how people perceived me was like, oh, she's got long, beautiful hair.
Some of it is the hair, right?
Yeah, like our outward appearance.
Right.
And so, she was just sharing like how she's been stripped of that. And I remember thinking like, as she was sharing, I sent her, like texted her this, like, I literally think you are more beautiful now.
Yeah.
And I'm not even just blowing smoke. Like when I look at her, even her physical appearance, it is more beautiful to me.
Yeah. There's a radiance that comes through spiritual growth, isn't there?
I'm like, I can literally see on you how much closer you are to the Lord, how much that is what you're clinging to. Like, and to me, there's like actual physical radiance that it comes from her. Yeah. And I could care less about her hair, although I think it's adorable. Like, you know what I'm saying?
She's beautiful no matter
she
what.
Is beautiful.
But yeah, of course. Yeah. And when I think of her, I think of the way her voice sounds and the way her laugh sounds and the things she said to me and her like I all of those things are on the list. I'm not saying the physical appearance isn't part of the pie chart. It just doesn't matter.
That's right.
In the it does and it doesn't.
I remember one day I said something to Joseph like, I got this crooked tooth, like I want to fix it. And he was like, oh, that's my favorite thing about you. And I'm just like, but like, so we do that. We do, like, we think these pieces of me need to be changed so that I will be more beautiful. Because we have this picture, this $1 billion picture of this woman who is perfect in every way.
Yeah.
yet it's just totally not real.
It's an image.
It is an image
fake.
that we shouldn't
It's
be striving for.
counterfeit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
Okay, we
He
can
loves
get
your
off.
tooth.
I know. I
Your
was like,
snuggle
okay,
tooth.
I'll
He
never fix
loved-
it.
Oh,
I'll never
it's
fix
precious.
it. Yeah.
I mean, what happened to like the beauty mark? You know, like come on.
Yeah.
Okay, we're done.
We're done.
We're so done. I'm like mentally done too. I'm sorry. We got off in the weeds a little bit,
did.
but I don't know if it, Jeff will just do what he needs to do. Who's to say?
Who's to say?
Really?
Yeah.
But thank you for joining us.
Yep.
We're not going to come back to, we did the Proverbs 31 woman. We're trying to do kind of a system where we, like every other week, do an interview and then every other week do some teaching. So we'll see what the next topic that comes up is. But thank you for joining us. And
Yeah. Part 1's out there. If you missed it, if you listen, oh, yeah. If you missed part 1, it is on the podcast. You can go find it and listen to both of them. And I guess I don't celebrate this holiday. I mean, I wear green so I don't get pinched by
Is it
people.
today?
No, I think it's coming. When this comes out, maybe.
Oh, okay. I was like, I'm not wearing green.
I actually couldn't tell you when it is.
Okay. Well, happy St. Patrick's Day.
Yes.
And this is wrapped around my real glasses. So bye.
Bye.